in the webinar series that Kiyamangalam University has organized with distinguished industry leaders and academicians. For those of you who have joined from outside the university, my name is Malik. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Kiyamangalam University. It's indeed a pleasure for me and an honor for me to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Vinod Sood. Mr. Vinod Sood is the Managing Director of Hughes Sysdig Corporation. He's a member of the board of Hughes Corporation. He is on the advisory board of various startups, very successful startups. In fact, he's on the advisory board of OYO, and he's been a mentor to Ritesh Agarwal. He's also a governing body member of Kiyamangalam University, an honorary distinguished professor at Kiyamangalam University, and on the advisory board of the Institute for Inventions, Innovations, and Entrepreneurship at Kiyamangalam University. In addition to this, Mr. Sood is Global Advisory Board member of Shulini University and on the steering committee member of NASCOM. We're delighted and honored to have him here speak to us, to speak to our students, particularly to our students and also those who are outside of our university in this very critical and challenging time of the pandemic of COVID-19 that is impacting and affecting all of us. But I think that Mr. Sood will be talking to us about how we can emerge stronger from this challenge and crisis. And the topic of today's talk, of his talk, will be personal and professional strength, a balancing act in post-COVID era. I now hand it over to Mr. Sood. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Professor Malik. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you and the students of Kiyamangalam University. Good afternoon, friends. So before I start my talk, I think I should also briefly talk about the collaboration which Hughes Sysdig, my company, is having with Kiyamangalam, and our teams are working together very closely. And the objective of this collaboration is to look at the computer science and engineering and electronics courses which are being taught at Kiyamangalam in particular, but this is true for any engineering college. And the objective is that once the students they pass out, they come out of the college, and when they enter industry and enter companies like Hughes Sysdig, which are in the business of developing software for high-tech areas, they should be able to get productive. They should be able to work on live projects pretty much as soon as they join. Typically what happens nowadays is that it takes between 3 to 6 months for a computer science or an electronics engineer to get productive after he or she joins a corporate. And we would like to reduce that time of 3 to 6 months to, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks. And with the blessings of Chancellor Sir, Professor Dinesh Singh, and Professor Malik, we thought it's a very good opportunity where industry and academia can come together and work on a very, very specific objective instead of just talking in generalities about the need to have industry academia collaboration. Let's take a specific objective. So I just wanted to tell all the students that we are working on this. We have put together a team, and Professor Malik has put together a team, and these two teams are working together in terms of looking at what all additions, what all changes we need to do in the course curriculum. How do we make the course curriculum more interactive? How do we make it more application oriented? how do we make it more closer to the industry? So we will continue working on that. And I think once we have a successful pilot, this in itself can become a showcase which other universities, other engineering so now, Professor Himani talked to me a couple of weeks back and asked me to address the students. I was wondering what should I talk on? Okay, and then I thought that maybe a topic which I can pick, which will be useful to you as students and also will be relevant in this very challenging and unprecedented situation we are in is around leadership. So the topic I am going to talk about is a leader's evolution, learning through the prism of my journey. So basically, I will like to share some stories from my professional journey, the learnings I had, some experiences that have shaped me and helped me. And I believe some of these traits are the traits which you can focus on as you start getting ready to get into your professional life and basically from an individual contributor as you transition to a role where you will be expected to provide leadership. And let me tell you one thing, leadership is nothing to do with experience. Leadership is not something that if you have only gray hair, you are a leader. Whatever you are doing, whatever role you are in, right, you can be a leader. So even as a student, even as a fresh engineer joining a corporate, these are some of the qualities if you develop, if you instill in yourself, you will be a leader, and that will help you as you progress in your journey. And these are the same traits which are going to help you in terms of navigating these very difficult times. So that is the topic I thought is relevant and is going to resonate with all of you. So let me take you back in history. And I'm really saying back in history because I will take you to 1984. I'm sure all the students right out there who are listening to me would not have been even born then. So I joined Siemens as a fresher in 1984. 1984 was when I passed out. I did my electrical engineering from PEC Chandigarh. And Siemens was a campus job. It was a dream job, something which everyone in the college aspired for. One of the very few MNCs in India during those days. Good salary, posting in Delhi, everything which a young engineer could have asked for. However, very soon I realized that this is not something which I would like to do all my life. By the way, there was nothing wrong with the job or my role, and even my boss, who happened to be a nice young chap. I could have continued like that. However, I decided that I will look for something which I love doing, something which excites me and I'm very passionate about. Around that time, I saw an article in India Today. Sam Pitroda, NRI, had given a proposal to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was the prime minister of the country then, to design and build a digital switch in India. Only a handful of US and European companies had this technology. In fact, it was said that designing a switch was only second to putting a man in space in terms of the technical and engineering complexity. After reading that article, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I discovered this is where my passion lie. I decided that if given an opportunity, I would like to join this team. Uh, as I said, Siemens was one of the few multinationals. I had a job there. It was a job which everybody aspired for. It too would have been complacent, but that is when I introspected, internalized, deliberated, and decided to pursue my true calling. And I took a very, very significant detour of my early professional life. So, what is it that I learned, or anybody else can learn, or the message anybody can take? Don't be afraid to take a detour or a difficult decision. This definitely will mean taking some risk, going against the common wisdom. During your journey also, you will at times face situations where you will be required to take a risk, to take a decision which is against the status quo, going against the grind. This takes courage, and as a leader, one has to take decisions all the time which involve risk, and not many may support that decision. And if you see the time in which we are living today with this coronavirus pandemic, you may be at a juncture where you might have to take a decision which is not normal, which may involve a risk. So that is something which you should be ready for. And that is one of the very, very important traits of a leader. As destiny would have it, I joined CDOT, Center for Development of Telematics, was the R&D institution which Government of India had set up on recommendation of Sam Pitroda. The charter was for CDOT was to build a family of switches suited for Indian conditions. Uh, when I say switch, it's a digital switching system, a system which will enable one uh, telephone subscriber to call another telephone subscriber. Eventually, CDOT was successful. The large switch was dedicated to the nation in 1991. 24 million lines based on CDOT technology were developed in the Indian telecom network over the next decade. This, in fact, was the precursor to the mobile telephony revolution we have seen now. Though we were a team comprising of young professionals, some fresh out of the college, we were very motivated and passionate about what we were working on. In fact, we did not even know at that time that we were trying to do was almost impossible. There was no hierarchy. In fact, during those days, and I'm talking about mid 80s, this may be normal now. Sam had us call him and other managers and senior folks by their first names. There was absolute flexibility, office timings, kind of work one wanted to do. Basically, bunch of young engineers working closely and interacting with senior scientists and managers, contributing to the success of the project. So what is it that I learned at CEDA? What I learned was that leadership is about building a compelling view of the future. Set an inspiring vision that will benefit the organization as well as provide a sense of common purpose and direction to the team. This is what Sam did as a leader. He told us, don't get intimidated. Nothing is impossible. Focus on the goal. That leadership is about helping everyone in the team realize their full potential. Every person has unique and immense potential. Help people realize their potential by challenging and stretching them. Sam helped build an organization culture and environment which enabled everyone to give their best, work together as a team, helping each other to realize an impossible goal. So again, in, in today's context, what does it mean? Even though it may seem as if the world is coming to an end, nothing is possible, right? But the lesson as a leader we have to learn is nothing possible. If we all get together and we decide that we have to do something, we have to achieve something, human ingenuity and with the hard work, it will be possible to achieve what seems like impossible. After C. Dot, I joined Hughes. This was in 1992. The economic liberalization had just started. The government had announced liberal policies which enabled multinationals like Hughes to set up high-tech engineering centers in India. I had a great opportunity to set up a R&D center in India for Hughes. We were lucky that the Hughes management gave us a free hand to build an organization and team from scratch. Instead of normal practice during those times when MNCs had their subsidiaries just follow all the policies and practices of the parent organization and have expats manage the operation, we were empowered to design and implement policies, systems, and structures as we deemed fit. At Hughes Software Systems, we began with building a young team with a charter to be an extension of the R&D team of Hughes in US. This seemingly was humongous. However, based on what we had learned from Sam at CDOT, we hired youngsters from premier engineering colleges, gave them a vision that we are going to build some of the most complex communication systems anywhere in the world out of India. We could do this creating an organization built on culture of collaboration, openness, respect for individuals, and excellence. This also involved taking risks, having the courage to try out something which was not the norm during those times, when every multinational in India was just a back-end center driven by the parent organization in all aspects. So during our journey at HSS, young talented hires were given an opportunity to take on independent responsibility to manage technically challenging projects with minimal supervision from the parent company in the US. So this enabled them to grow as efficient managers, effective team leaders, problem solvers. Apart from their core engineering work, they also got to work on organization level initiatives, which gave them the experience of managing multiple initiatives, a skill very essential for a successful leader. So if I were to crisply share my learnings at HSS, it would be that individuals can raise themselves to the occasion and take up much bigger roles if given an opportunity. Building relationships and empathizing without any expectation helps in building trust. Moving from HSS to HSC, which is my present company, Hughes City Corporation, was filled with excitement and gave me an opportunity now to build the organization from very scratch. Over the years at HSS, I was fortunate to have earned the trust of my engineering function and also that of other functions by constantly being there for them selflessly without any expectations, empathizing, mentoring, and guiding. This resulted in building many strong bonds that we still cherish. It was these strong bonds built over the years at HSS that helped us when we wanted to start a team at Hughes System. All these young professionals who had been groomed by us at HSS wanted to join the team at HSC, and today they are contributing at senior levels. Having talked about my professional journey and learnings from there, let me now dwell on some of the skills which you need to build as you get into the role of a leader. These are also based on my experiences as I transitioned across these roles over the years. As a manager, you are primarily responsible for leadership, program, group, or a division. When you take a higher role as a leader, you are required to lead a business unit or a function or an organization. My experience tells me that managers must acquire and change certain key skills and attributes to successfully transition to these roles. So the first one is moving from managing a project or a function to managing multiple programs, functions, or units. This involves transitioning from being the expert of one's core area to be focused on owning all functions and making them succeed together. Basically, from a specialist, you need to become a generalist. So while doing this, one needs to be careful about micromanagement or overmanagement. If you see subconsciously, your area of expertise as a manager becomes a trap for you as a leader. As a specialist, you have the knowledge and skills of your area. So you will end up exercising too much control and micromanage that function. And since that is your comfort zone, you tend to remain in that. You need to move from focusing on depth to looking at breadth. For example, I have been involved with the engineering function for a very, very long time. So now as a leader of organization, if I keep on closely monitoring the engineering function, I'm not only stepping on my engineering function head's area, but will also not be able to give attention to other functions, thereby impacting the overall functioning of the organization. Another trait that a leader needs to develop is the ability to quickly understand other functions or other areas. This can be developed if early on in your career, while you are a manager or while you are a team leader or you are an individual player, you go beyond your assigned work and take some time and effort to see and learn the working, the challenges, the good practices of another project, another module, subsystem, or function. Coming to the second one. Second one is focusing more on planning and strategy. That is moving from being a problem solver to being an enabler who guides and steers the team and helps them solve the problem. So to graduate to a steering role, you will need to develop few skills. That is, one is the ability to let go of details, have a broader view, focus on higher level issues, and not get into the nitty gritty of how to solve project or department level problems alone. So ability to figure out what are the big problems which need to be solved, prioritize what is critical for the success of the function or unit or enterprise is what becomes very important. To understand when to focus on details and when to look at the big picture. One also needs to understand relations and dependencies between various entities, groups, functions, and how they impact each other and what course of action to take based on that. And again, these are some of the attributes which you can relate to even as a student leader, right? If you are a leader of your team, if you are a leader of a group of fellow students, right? You have to have the ability to look at the bigger picture. You don't have to always roll up your sleeves to solve the problem, right? But you should be able to help and direct your team members and guide them to solve the problem. So again, these are some of the attributes, some of the qualities which you should start developing early on. Now let me come to the third one. The third one is transitioning from a messenger to an effective communicator and relationship. And what I mean by that, as a leader, you need to take the entire group of people along with you. So basically what it means is that you have to work with all the stakeholders and ensure that they all collaborate in the interest of the larger agenda. This is where your skills of negotiation, persuasion, conflict management, and relationship building, anticipating what others' response to different situations will be, will help. You develop this ability when you put genuine effort in relationship building over the years. These are not only the skills you need to develop, there are others too, but in my experience, these three broadly are the key ones. I would now like you to watch this video. Can somebody from IT play the video now? Thank you. So thank you for playing the video. So this video very aptly shows how a leader needs to be a team player too, and yet lead, nudge, keep the team together and focus towards the goal. The leader's job is to help everyone realize their potential, occasionally nudge and push the team members so that the collective result is what the leader has envisioned in the beginning. Another thing which this video demonstrates is that teams need to be agile. Sometimes the roles evolve based on situations, and it is the leader who builds, empowers, and enables such teams by himself always being part of the team and ready to take up any role based on need. As I come to the end of my talk, I would like all of you to understand that every one of you has a great leader within you. You just need to realize it and provide a spark so that it gets ignited. The first thing which one needs to have as a good leader is the ability to envision, see the big picture, that one thing towards which the leader needs to rally her team or the organization. A leader's job is not to solve the problem himself, but to identify the most important and critical problem that needs to be solved and then show the path how to solve the problem. Leadership is the ability and willingness to take risks, which requires courage. Leadership is about doing the right things rightly, which is never easy. It requires taking tough decisions, moving ahead in face of challenges and opposition. All this requires a lot of character, courage of conviction, and standing up to your beliefs, principles, and your team. All this is possible if you build trust. Trust is something which people want to trust and emotions rather than logic. Trust needs to be earned, and for that, one needs to have the credibility which directly flows from your competency and skills, that you will act consistently and fairly, and your emotional connect and empathy with the people. Leadership is about trust building. To build it, suspend your own agenda, walk the talk, and deliver on the promises. So, thank you very much. And I wish you all the best, as some of you will be in the process of completing your engineering and getting into your professional course. And I hope all of you are staying safe and taking care of yourself and your family's health in these very, very difficult and trying times. Thank you very much. I can take few questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sood. This was a very inspiring and profound and tremendous amount of wisdom that you shared with all of us, our young viewers, and also those who are perhaps in more senior positions, to understand what it means to be a leader. And there's a few things I found very, very pertinent, like creating a compelling view of the future and a common purpose and direction, which you mentioned. And also being able to create an environment of openness and respect and have courage and trust, that these are all the qualities that are required for a leader, but also for a successful institution. And for us to be able to actually, implement these skills that are so necessary to build something that is productive, creative, nurturing, enabling for everyone. And I think this has come through very clearly in your talk, that to be a leader or to be part of an institution and organization is to make sure that each one of us or each person in that institution, their potential is fully realized, and that they are looked after in that institution. I think it's been very valuable for all of us to hear you, and also thank you for sharing your personal experience and personal journey, which resonates a great deal for all of us. There are one or two few questions that are coming through. Maybe I'll ask you to begin with. One question concerns, since you've also been so closely involved in startups, also the OYO startup and many other startups, what kind of hindrances does someone generally face when starting his own business? So the person is asking, can you please share your views on some points one should keep in mind all the time when one wants to begin up one's own business or startup? What sort of challenges, hindrances, things come in the way? How does one deal with that also?
Okay, it's a great question. So I think two or three things. If you decide to start something on your own, the first thing which you should be clear about, am I audible?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
So the first thing one should be very clear about is that it is not starting up for the sake of starting up, or if or you have heard that some entrepreneur started and has been very successful. You should be very clear why you want to start, what is the problem you are trying to solve, what is the product which you are trying to build, which is going to address a customer need. So basically, you should be clear that whatever you are doing either is solving a problem or is towards satisfying a need or is doing something which a customer wants and is willing to pay. So that is the first thing you have to keep in mind. The second thing is once you are clear about what your enterprise, what your startup is going to do, you need to put in the hard work because it's not just the idea. You might have a great idea that this is what I want to do. It may be sounding very exciting, but then you have to take that idea and start working in terms of putting together a plan in terms of how you are going to take that idea forward and build a business around that idea. What does it mean in terms of building that solution or that product in terms of technology? To do that, what is the kind of team you have to put together? Who are going to be your potential customers? What are your markets? Those customers, what are they going to pay for the service or the product you are going to build? How much time it is going you are going to take to build a solution or a product? How are you going to sustain for that much of time, because till you build something and sell it to a customer who is willing to pay for it, right? What are the sources of your income? Because you will have to sustain yourself, you will have to pay the team, there will be resources required to build the business. So you need to put in all the hard work to detail out your idea and put together a business plan. Once you have done that and you are convinced about the viability of the idea, you should not be afraid that will it work or will it not work. You, there should not be fear of failure. Let me tell you, one out of 10 startups succeeds. All the stories, right, the glorified stories which you read in the media or which you hear on the TV are of those 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 100 which make it. Nobody talks about the 90 others which have failed, but that doesn't mean that you should get demotivated or disappointed. Failure is a stepping stone to success. From failures, you will learn. And in your next attempt, from those learnings, you will do things differently, you will do things better.
Thank you. Can we take a few more questions?
Yeah.
There's one question, it's a very nice question from a student who's saying, I'm studying in first year and please advise me, how do I prepare my resume to get a job in your organization?
Okay, so the answer is very simple. You don't have to prepare your resume. You have to build your skills and competencies. And what I mean by that is you should first research what our organization is, what is the kind of work we do, right? And the easiest way to do that is get on to our website, right, which will give you an idea about all the kind of work, the industries, the kind of domains we work on, right? Now, once you get an idea of that, and I suppose either you are a computer science student or you are an electronics and communication engineering student, right? You now start working on your skills, which will enable you to do that kind of a work, right? And again, to put it simply, most of these engineers who we hire are software development engineers, right? So their job initially is to design and develop software. So basically what you do during your college tenure is to make sure that you strengthen your computer science fundamentals. You start taking some projects on your own and start doing some programming. It doesn't matter which language. It can be C, it can be C++, it can be Java, it can be Python, it can be any language. Language is incidental. Language is just a tool. But what you should do is pick up projects and start doing those projects in terms of doing some coding and submitting these projects on GitHub or some kind of a repository. So that is how you will build your resume in a way. You will acquire skills, you will acquire competencies, you will get good at some of the basic computer science courses like programming languages, data structures, algorithms, operating systems, networks. So that is the theoretical part. The practical part is you will do some programming, you will take some problems, you will do some coding and submit this coding, right? You will put your code into GitHub where when suppose you apply for a job to Hughes to speak or for that matter, any other company, right? You can show that this is what you have done in 4 years. Okay.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Just maybe couple of more questions. One is from the point of view of faculty, as far as I can see. They're asking, can you share some advice on how to identify leadership potential in students?
Okay, so leadership potential in students.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think again there are some basic attributes. If you find that somebody is willing to take initiative, is ready to take on jobs or roles other than what is directly assigned to him or her, is a person who is collaborative, who is always willing to help others, right? Somebody who is a good communicator, who is not only able to do his or her work, but also is able to present the work. Somebody who is in a situation which requires teamwork is able to come forward and not only do what he or she is supposed to do, but also put in effort to help others, because in the team many times you have all kinds of individuals. Some of those individuals may not have the capability or the skills to finish their own job. So these are some signs of early signs of leadership qualities: teamwork,
Yeah,
collaboration, initiative, good communication.
yes, thank you. That's very pertinent. Perhaps one more question,
Yeah,
and I think that's very,
one last question.
yeah, one last question. I'm sure you're very busy. Uh, and this is a question perhaps on a lot of our minds, and that is, what do you think there's some new options or new professions, something will emerge after the pandemic COVID-19 in terms of careers and professions that one should pay more attention to?
So I think two things. One, in general, I think remote work will become more and more prevalent. So it doesn't matter where you are, if you have the skills and the competencies required to do a job, organizations will be much more willing to use your skills and competencies to get a job done. Doesn't matter, the organization might be in Gurgaon and you might be in a small town somewhere in Arunachal Pradesh or Ladakh or Odisha. Doesn't matter, because with the way this work from home has been forced, and pretty much all organizations have been forced to work from home for the last more than a month, right? It has demonstrated that it is possible, because earlier it used to be कि हो नहीं सकता है ये तो, है ना? Now we have shown, we are last almost 2 months we are delivering. There is no dip in productivity. We are meeting the customer commitments, right? And all organizations doing that. So that remote work will become more prevalent. But yes, you will have to have the right kind of competencies and skills required for any particular job. And if you have that, organizations will be more than willing to use your talent. So, so that is one. Second, in terms of how does this COVID-19 in terms of presenting new opportunities, things like healthcare, right? Anything to do with healthcare, people's safety, right? These will be some of the industries which will flourish. Second thing, as far as IT is concerned, uh, all organizations who were earlier hesitant or skeptical of introducing technology or getting all their systems and workflows and processes digitized, right? For whatever reason, they would have seen that with this forced lockdown and this need for work to continue happening even when you don't have access to your office, it is going to become more and more of a norm, because this virus is not going to go away, right? Until we have a cure and a vaccine, right? Which can take anywhere in year to uh, these lockdowns keep happening. So that is something which we should be aware of.
Right. Well, perhaps we'll end here. I'm sure you're very busy, and thank you so much for taking time out to speak to all our students and also faculty, and I'm sure other participants from outside Kiamangalam University. It was a pleasure to hear you. Very valuable, a lot of inspiration and wisdom there. And I am sure that everyone who's heard you will pick up these points that you've mentioned. So thank you so much for being with us again. We look forward to our collaboration with Hughes in future and establishing something very concrete in the near future. Certainly as soon as this lockdown is lifted. Thank all the viewers again for coming on to our webinar series, and stay tuned, watch the space. We'll be here again very soon. Thank you again, Mr. Vinod Sood, for being with us.
Thank you very much. And in fact, it was a pleasure talking to all the students, and I look forward to visiting the campus again once the situation becomes normal.
Thank you. We look forward to it. Thank you so much.